So this is Brunch, and I thank you for being here. As I mentioned, we've got a tight plate going on here. I would like to first go to the United States. As you know, President Trump has signed legislation that prohibits Muslims from coming from certain Muslim countries, because not all of them, Indonesia, Dubai, a couple of places, Saudi Arabia, not involved in that ban. Most people suspect that's because he's got business there. However, 140 million Muslims are affected by this ban, and it started yesterday with a lot of people coming to O'Hare Airport. A lot of people going through Chicago couldn't get admission to the United States. It did not happen in Dallas Airport either. It also did not happen at JFK. It is at JFK where they had what seemed to be the largest protest, so it's on to New York City I go. You know this gentleman because you see him on CNN. He is, of course, the anchor for New York One. He is a major contributor to CNN. He is Errol Louis. Mr. Louis, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Rennie. Good to be with you.
It is good to be with you as always, and every time I grab onto you on a Sunday morning is because something big is going on. Understand we had thousands and thousands of people at the airport of JFK last night. A lot of folks could not get to the airplane because, you know, the roads were a mess. The Attorney General, Mr. Schneiderman, went to the court. He got an injunction on behalf of a number of people who were detained. Give us the 411, the fallout from the Trump legislation that bans Muslims from coming into the United States, at least for 120 days in the first one, I think is what he said.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what. I guess just to jump to the conclusion, the Trump administration moved so quickly and so, you could say, ineptly, that they may have undermined their ability to implement what is widely considered to be a Muslim ban. During the campaign, you may remember, the candidate Trump said he wanted a complete and shutdown of all Muslim immigration to the United States. That drew a lot of commentary from a number of scholars and politicians, political figures, saying that would be unconstitutional, that would be illegal. What he has decided to do, though, after getting elected, was to have a complete shutdown of immigration or a temporary suspension on visas and so forth from 7 nations, all of which are majority Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And it was implemented without input from the State Department, without input from Department of Homeland Security, without input from the National Security Council, and without input from the Office of Legal Counsel, which is the legal office in the Justice Department that would have enabled them to do this in a way that comported with the law. And so there were all kinds of categories of people, and I'm sure your listeners know all about this kind of stuff, but there are a lot of categories of visitors that they hadn't thought about. People who have dual citizenship, and if one of those citizens or one of those nationalities is, say, British, but the other is Somali, well, what do you do with that person when they show up?
In addition
what if
to
you have people, green card holders, legal permanent residents? They got arrested, not just detained, but arrested when they came to the airport yesterday.
One of the things that got a lot of folks angry is because some of the people who were barred, 2 particular people who were barred, were actually Iraqis who assisted the U.S. armed forces across there with carrying out their business, and they were guaranteed 2 years ago they were given the visa to arrive to come to the United States. Now that they are there, they were in fact detained. That is what led to one of the biggest reactions yesterday.
Well, that's right. The 2 leading cases. One was one of those interpreters, just as you say, and so what happened was there was a spontaneous outcry because people were there waiting for their relatives, and when they realized that this is how this executive order was being interpreted, right on the spot, all of a sudden, people holding green cards, holding legal visas, were not being admitted and were being detained, were being handcuffed in some cases. All kinds of demonstrations broke out. Now, here in New York, what happened was the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, put out a call for volunteers, and a bunch of attorneys went down to the airport, purchased tickets so that to anywhere, so that they could get past security, get into the passenger area, and there were photos that came out of them sitting with their laptops open, drafting legal papers right on the spot. Somebody conveyed those back to a federal court in Brooklyn, and they got a stay on the implementation of the executive order for I think at least 7 days.
In the
It was.
in the short space we have here, Errol, I saw the banks are up. How would you rate this decision in the sense of stability/instability in the Middle East? Because this ban is directed, as we said, to some Muslim countries and not all. Many are crying that this may be a conflict of interest because countries where Mr. Trump has business, they were not on the list.
That's correct. There are countries like the United Arab Emirates, like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, where he has business interests, and they were exempted. Although all of those nations and several more are places where there has been a proven terrorist threat. To the extent that there was a genuine national security interest, this didn't really make a lot of sense. So you have something that was troubling, possibly unconstitutional in the first place, that was implemented in a way that was hasty and was rushed, and now we have a big mess. For one thing, some people are still in detention, and there are going to be massive protests at most of the big international airports around the country today.
I am going to conclude, Errol, by thanking you for taking the time to be with us, but being mindful that Trinidad and Tobago could be included because it is said a number of, it has been proven, they say, in some instances, a number of terrorists, folks who went to fight with ISIS left Trinidad and Tobago. At any point, he can designate a country as a country that is exporting rebels or fighters for terrorist purposes, and then, it comes a question of what happens to us here. But it's interesting to find out what's happening in New York City. My brother, thank you so much for taking off your busy schedule to give me that small 5 minutes this morning. I truly appreciate it.
You got it.
CNN's Errol Louis, also the host of New York One, joining us in this morning. You have yourself a very wonderful day.